Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast. I'm excited. I got my tribe here. We're going to have a great conversation about bold moves and really putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, growing, expanding, and shining your light into the world. If you're here on YouTube, hi, I'm JJ. This is my show, which means I'm going to talk. But you know that because you've been here before. And if you haven't been here before and you don't like me, that's totally cool. There are 3 other amazing women here who you're going to learn all about, and they're going to tell you where to find them as we get into this episode. If you're here on the podcast, we did a video. Come on over to jjflizanes.tv so you can meet Vesta, Wendy, and Helen if you haven't met them in person yet and saw their beautiful shining faces. And so I'd asked these ladies to come on today. They have a couple things in common. First is that they all are in their second year of my Inner Circle Mastermind. Now, not consecutively. Wendy took a break, but Helen and Vesta have been together now for 2 straight years. And this past year, they have all made really bold moves. Well, this year ends for some of them last year, right? So there's been this theme of when you're getting ready to really expose yourself into the world and sort of step up and step out into that thing you want to be doing, the passion that you have, the gifts you want to share, the lives you want to change, and the ways that you want to do that. So I wanted them to come on, not only to inspire you, but of course to invite you to attend the things that they are doing and to get the knowledge, the wisdom, the inspiration, and the motivation that they're here to give you. So I'm going to start with Vesta. Because Vesta did her first summit last year, The Power of Choosing You. And I know you've probably heard about it. We talked about it on the show a little bit, and hopefully a lot of you attended it. And if you didn't, well, you're in luck. You're going to get to attend it again because she's doing it again. So Vesta, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, my name is Vesta Hurlbut. I did a summit last year, Power of Choosing You. It was definitely one of the harder things I've done in my life, in this capacity, because I did have to put myself out there. I will often talk about the dreaded video. I just talked about it yesterday because it is so funny now. Um, I for the when you sign up for the summit, it's nice to have a nice little video on there welcoming you to the page and how excited I am to have you there. And I really am. I'm so excited. Anytime anybody signs up, I'm always like, "Yay, it's so good." And I love it. But when the video, I think it had to be like 15 seconds long. It took me about 3 weeks to make, and there were so many tears and so much turmoil. It was awful, but it was awful. I say it was awful, but now it's so second nature. I'm not afraid to speak. I will say I wrote in my manifestation journal a whole bunch last year. I want to be comfortable in front of a microphone. I want to be comfortable in front of a microphone. And I feel like I am now. I'm not 100% still because it's I don't know, maybe some people get used to it, but it's still definitely still putting myself out there. I do a podcast now, and I just was talking about it to Wendy because Wendy's going to be doing a podcast, and I accidentally put out the first 3 episodes, and I don't know. I think there was potential for me to make a lot more excuses why I wasn't going to put it out there, and whenever I accidentally put it out there, because technology is hard, it's often a roadblock for me. But putting it out there, and now I love doing it. I love doing it so much. I have podcasts recorded till March, and I'm not overwhelmed. I absolutely love doing it. It's the more I put myself out there, the more I find things that I love, and some of them I'm actually really good at. So here I am. Oh, and my podcast is called the Open Heart Healing Podcast. That's a shameless plug, but
I
there it
was going to
is.
ask you, and if you didn't do it, I was going to do it. So I'm not doing a very good job as your coach if I'm not teaching you how to shamelessly plug your podcast when you say I have a podcast. No, I have a podcast, and now you're on a podcast promoting the podcast, which is always the best place to go. Called Open Heart Healing Podcast. So
Yes.
so let's talk a little bit about your summit. So yes, the growth that's happened, and actually, you know what? Let's hold that story for a second. we're going to get to the promotion piece. That was an excellent way to start in terms of the growth from last year, because Vesta, we'd had a session and she was crying. I mean, she's crying, crying, crying. And she's like, I can't do the video. I can't do the video. I can't do the video. And so the funny thing now is, and so I want you all to, those of you that are listening to this podcast or watching this video, there's something in your life that you say that about. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. It scares the crap out of me. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And then you don't do that, but it blocks you from getting to where you want to go, because what you want to get to on the other side of that, this is what you have to go over, the mountain you have to climb to get to the other side. So now what is funny is that Vesta now has her own podcast. And then she's making her own courses, and she said, I'd rather just do a video. I'd rather, because it's easier, because it's easier. And if you would have told her, she would have said that last year, she would have flipped me the bird and said, you are crazy. There is no way that I will ever say that, because this 15-second video is killing me right now. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I sometimes I'm like, I think I'll just do a video. And for me, a video is way more personal. And I think you can feel my emotions and how I'm feeling and how truthful whatever it is I'm saying is coming out in a video more than maybe an email or a post or something. So I personally I like videos more now. I don't do them a lot, but I mean, I kind of do. I do them for every podcast. So
awesome.
Almost my comfort zone
It's
is what
almost,
it is.
look at that. It was so far out of your comfort zone, and now it's actually part of your comfort zone, and you're excelling at it. So I think it's awesome. So thank you for that, because I know whether you're in business for yourself or not, you'll never do a summit, you'll never do a podcast. That's not the point of this. The point is the growth. And the point is that the growth in your business life also equals the growth in your personal life, because you have to get over the demons and the fears and the vulnerabilities and the things that stop you from putting yourself out there in order to get to that place. That's why I always say that your business will grow you like nothing else will, because it will confront every fear, every upper limit, every vulnerability, every unworthy imposter syndrome. It'll just challenge every part of you. And I think it's awesome. So congratulations, Vesta. And we'll talk about your summit as we get through introducing everybody else. So I'm going to bring on Wendy next. And so Wendy did a bunch of things when she wasn't with me that year, the year in between then and now. She did a few bungee jumps, decided to take her life in her own hands a couple times, and sort of broke through some of the fear pieces there, and has done her first summit this year, the Paths to Inner Peace, and is getting ready to do her own podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, Wendy.
Thank you. And it was quite the expansive year for me, incredibly. And I have done a couple of conferences here in my region, and talking out in public and talking to strangers about what I do as a coach. So that also took me out of my comfort zone, which was really a fantastic thing to do, and I really enjoyed it. So after I did the summit, it was like even more spark to continue talking. So it's like when we had our mastermind in Mexico, and I was struggling with a name of I said I was seriously thinking about doing a podcast, but I don't know what I do for a name. And JJ turned around, she said, Paths to Inner Peace. It's like, oh my gosh. So that's going to be the name of the podcast. And I just have to put things in motion and get moving on it. So yes. And I'm anticipating to launch it at the end of October.
Were you nervous about your summit?
Oh, extremely nervous. Even right up to the point before, just like seconds before I opened it. It's like, nope, you're just going to go on and have fun. That was the last thing that went through my head. And as soon as I opened it up, I had a fantastic day. It was an amazing experience. And I could definitely do it again, no problem.
Yeah, you were on a high because you were feeling the energy that
Absolutely.
gets, because when you're talking about what you love with people who have interesting things to add to it, like it's something you can do all day. That's when you're in a zone of genius, because you could just be doing this all day. If you didn't need any money, you just do this all day. Like, this is fun, right? It's fun. It's inspiring. It's motivating. But you did great. And I don't know if you recently had your haircut and it looks fabulous, but besides the haircut, there is a glow about you that I don't know. And maybe it might be worth going to look at even just your testimonial video for me on the site about the manifestation boot camp. Like if you just see yourself now versus then, have you personally been able to look yourself in the mirror or watch yourself in replay and say, wow, I look a lot more confident now?
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a minute when you're learning something new or when you're deciding you want to go in a different direction. It doesn't really matter how much school or education or books you've read or whatever. Like the minute you actually commit to doing something like outside of your head, like, oh, I think I'd like to do this. Like that's a safe space to be. Oh, that was interesting. Maybe I'll do that sometime. And then the minute you like commit and put yourself out there, game over, game changes, right? Because you're like, oh, now I have to talk to people and tell them what I do. And then I have to see how they think about that or if they like that. And now I have to wonder, like, if what I'm saying is the correct thing. And then do I feel like, how do I handle these different situations? And it's what happens. It just what happens. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It just happens when you go from one career or passion to another and you, again, put yourself out there,
Right.
You are confronted with all the fears you may have of what other people think of you, or watching yourself, or second guessing what's coming out of your mouth. And should I be saying it differently? Or, you edit, and which takes us out of the moment a lot of times, right? We're not actually connected to the person or to ourselves because we're too busy wondering how they're going to receive us. And then we're editing our words before they come out of our mouth. But with practice, and there really isn't any other way. It's like why the rewire is the way the rewire is because while we can look at core wound patterns and decide, here's how I break it. All right, well, that's not enough. You have to do it, and you have to do it, and you have to do it over and over again. What would you say to some of the things that you have done over and over again, or told yourself in order to keep moving forward and keep growing and expanding and being more confident and more comfortable and more excited and more committed?
And it's funny you're saying this because I've been on hold about the podcast. I've got pages written. I have yet to record it. It's just been on pause. And I know myself, once I step into it, it's going to be nonstop from that point forward. It's to take that step to do it. Why am I not doing it? I honestly cannot pinpoint it, except that I'm just taking a break. But yet, why am I taking this break? It's fear. It's fear that's holding me back. And I can honestly say that. However, once I get into it, once I do it, I know I'll be okay. It's no different than bungee jumping. I knew I was going to be okay. My son works there. He does it all the time. He talks about it. And anyway, he shows videos. He comes here and nothing's happened to him. Standing in front of people and talking to people, nothing happened to me. So it's more of, I know it's all in my head. It's just a matter of taking that step and just doing it. And just take that first step, because that's like technology, learning something totally new. When you learn it and you do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't all that hard. And I know that's been my self-talk for years that's holding me back. So it's just a matter of just doing it, just getting up and doing it. And I honestly am struggling with the cover art. That's all. At this point in time, I'm struggling with that cover art. Yet, shouldn't stop me from recording. It shouldn't stop me from reaching out to people to do interviews, and it shouldn't stop me from doing anything else. But that's what's stopping me. So tomorrow, it's going to change.
Well, send me the cover art so I can look at it and help you. But I get it, because there is something about the packaging. There is something about the theme. Like we're getting ready to, in our next content call, I got Jane's girl where she's going to talk about TikTok. And I've been sitting here saying, oh, I quote unquote should be on TikTok. Why am I not using TikTok? And every time I go there, intuitively, my body goes, nope, you're not ready. Nope, it's not the right time. Nope. You need to have a strategy. This is not another platform you're going to get involved in without a strategy or a clear direction about what you're doing, because I do not need another thing to do. So I wanted to try it out and see. And that's what ended up happening, is that now's the right time and I have a clear direction. If all the other pieces that I am having, going on work out, then it's going to be streamlined. It's going to be very efficient use of time and energy, and we'll see. But I get that, because I intuitively want to do it, but I don't want to do it haphazardly. I want to do it with direction. So it's not about, Vesta had so last year at the first mastermind retreat in Mexico is when we came up with open heart healing for Vesta. So And then, of course, life happened. And, it took about a year from that moment for her to launch the show. But she had the idea, right? But it was, life circumstances outside of her control that really sort of slowed some of that or paused that. And honestly, amazing that she even did it, because a lot of people would have said, well, I'm putting everything aside for life trauma right now and I'm not even moving forward. But so, there is a divine timing. And sometimes we have to assess if it's a personal block that's necessary or not, or if it's divine timing that I know I'm going to do it. You've heard this before, the whole consciousness upgrade summit, right? I thought of that in 2020. That mastermind was 2020 in June. And it took me till this year of 2024 to make it into something because it was the right time. So, I know it's the right time for you because that summit got those wheels turning, and you saw how much you loved it and how much it gave you life and passion. And it just is very like, it brings up more energy. It's energy sharing. It's energy transformation of momentum. So anyway, yeah. And do you think you do another summit again?
Oh, definitely. Most
Great.
definitely.
Great. Awesome. All right. So we'll talk about your podcast when we get to the next round. Next, I'd like to bring on Helen Raptopoulos. Helen's been now, this is her second year in the mastermind, and she's definitely done some things outside of her comfort zone recently, and also dealing with a lot of life at the same time. And so I want to commend you, Helen, before you come on, of all of the dedication you have to yourself and to your mission in life, to not only take care of yourself and be a good example of that, but to do what makes sense and what is helpful not only to you, but the people that you're serving. So welcome, Helen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, JJ. As soon as you started saying that, I just started feeling a little teary. It's really difficult sometimes to make that space for yourself. I know I always struggle with it. It's easier to focus on other people and just get out of myself. And so one of the things I've learned with being with you these couple years, more than any other thing, even though you are brilliant in business and I've grown so many ways, the inside work is just, you don't know that you're missing it until you start to get in there. I feel like a completely different person because I'm aware of things like that. And before it would just be like, I don't know what's wrong with me, or just, blow it off. So that's a big deal. The inner work is such a big deal.
I'm glad that you think that, because you're one of the last stragglers of last year that hadn't been with me at all through any of that. So we've done a little bit of that work, and you can't not get it when you're with this group, because everybody here has done some of that long-term, deeper work, and you've been doing beautifully at taking what you can and adding it to your circumstance, life, and business.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's also really helpful because we're watching each other go through things. So you have that added perspective of being outside, but still inside, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so in touch with each other and in tune with each other, we can feel each other's emotions. But so it's a different learning when it's not you, but you feel it for the other person, but you're outside of it. It's the most beautiful thing. And it's a real gift. It really is. You can't get there without it.
Thank you. Let's talk about your summit that you're doing this year. This is definitely a stretchy thing for you. Yes?
Yes, it is.
What are the tears for?
Oh, just from watching my beautiful friends here, Vesta and Wendy, and they're smiling and just being present.
Nice.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about any of the things? There are two things in my mind that are very stretchy, in ways stretchy.
Stepping up.
One, risky. Risky. I'm trying to think of the word. One is, because, well, let's just have you talk about it. What are some of the things that you feel for your growth have pushed you, that you're being pushed into, or that they're pushing you this year?
Really the biggest thing, and it's just so obvious, but it's the most difficult thing, is the getting out of your comfort zone. Like it's everything. And yet it's so safe and cozy and comfortable right where you are. But that's, especially in this group, we want more for ourselves. We see our potential. We don't want to play small. We want to play big, and we want to just step out in a really big way. And that is so scary and so difficult. And even saying that out loud, it seems like that's just so silly to think that. But then as you start to do it, and as you start to step out of your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. And that's the hardest place to go. Just even sticking your toe over that line. It's the scariest, but that's where you're like, wow, shit, like this is so cool. things happen right there. And you just got to keep doing it. Because what I've also realized, and you're so good at encouraging us, JJ, is that you can do it once and be like, oh my God, that was amazing. But then you go right back to where you were, right back in that little circle. That's the comfort zone. And you're like, oh, good, I did it. And I'm back. And it's like, you got to keep stretching and keep stepping out of that. And it's what I really appreciate most, and where I really feel like there's been some great growth there. Just being who you know you can be, who you want to be, but yet you're afraid to be her or him because it's you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And when you commit to, you guys know, I started the Date Your Body program this year, and it's just been amazing to see. I mean, and you guys have all been in different programs, obviously, that there's Marcos and whatever, and like the momentum that happens from the group. Like even right now, I've been taking this in this red hot moment. I'm dealing with some grief and some trauma and drama, and there's just been going, for about a week and a little bit more than that. And but for me to step away for a couple of days or a week and see how everyone takes care of themselves and each other, and how the growth, again, because it's not just about me. I don't want to coach anybody one-on-one anymore that's separate from a group, because it's just the value of being in a group so far exceeds any coach. I don't care who the hell you are. Because it's the group energy. It's the group, it's having the momentum of everybody. It's having the perspective of any. So many times this year, Helen, you have said in the group how much you learned by just watching someone go through something, like Deirdre's, journey, or before the journey, all of the back and forth and the processing on Marco about all of the stuff all the contrast stuff, right? And you've just been taking in and like kind of noticing, and there's a front row seat to a different kind of learning that you can't get when it's about you.
Right. That's so true. And you wouldn't think that if you like gave me a multiple choice, like, intelligent question about how growth happens, that wouldn't even be on my radar. It'd be like, well, what does that matter? It doesn't. But the group dynamic is I don't even know a word that is good enough. It's just the dynamic of being in a group is life altering.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of two things for you coming up, because I just can't help but want to talk about the other thing. I know I want to focus on your summit, and we're going to focus on your summit, but it's the idea that when you have a passion and when you're really, really good at something, and your little voice in your head says, yeah, but I've been working in this area for so long.
Yeah.
I don't want to go there. That's in a totally different direction. And God, I need to stay on this track. I need to stay on this track. But then the voice in the head goes, but you're really good over here. And this is your zone. Like, this is also a zone of genius. Can we talk about that for a second?
We can, because I mean, even as you're talking about it, this could be a coaching moment right here. The thing is, when you're multi-passionate and you're a creative and you like being an entrepreneur, the shiny object syndrome is so real. And the thing that I feel like, if I look way back and watch the progression and the milestones that I've gone through to get where I am, I feel like I changed what I'm interested in, what I'm excited about. And there's this other voice in my head that says, if you're going to be serious, you need to pick one thing and stick to it, and stop being like, oh, this looks fun and that looks fun, and I want to do this and I want to do all these things. And I want to do it all. I love so many things. And so I feel like, is it all right? Like, I haven't granted myself the permission, because I thought maybe that's where I've been stuck, or where I failed in the past, is changing directions all the time. And certain people in your life might make you feel like, well, you're not serious. When are you going to get a real job? You just keep doing this and you're doing that. And so I don't know if that's related, but there is that voice. That's maybe why I get a little stuck from like going another direction again, because it's notoriously who I am.
Okay, well, but your inner voice heard this. I said it, and then you said, yeah, I've been denying that voice in my head for a long time. Yes?
Yes, that is so true.
Let's just talk what that direction is, and we won't spend a ton of time on it. But I do want to put it out there because it's unique enough, and I've never talked about it on the show. And I want anyone who's listening to this, who's interested, who feels an immediate yes, to let Helen know, because I just feel okay. So you are a lifestyle designer, and you have been helping people with self-care and with committing to their self-care practices. Yes.
Yes. Healthy habits, self-care. Yes.
Okay. and you have programs and you have clients and you have products and you've created all this stuff and you're doing that. And never once did I say, forget that, put it down and walk away for good and leave it go. Yes?
Right. That's
Okay.
correct. You did.
Correct. Okay. We're going to create that funnel. We're going to automate that funnel. We're going to keep working that funnel, but we're going to allow it to live and exist. And we're going to pivot for a minute because there's something so obvious that needs to come out. And Helen, what is that?
I'm actually really excited and bouncing in my seat a little bit thinking about it. I love Airbnb. I'm a hostess. I'm a super host. I am a guest favorite. I love having an Airbnb. I love the whole concept, the company, the being able to live like a local wherever you go, the experiences, the different vibes and moods of a place, because it's not maybe what you have at home, but you want to try it on for size. I love Airbnb. I just would love specific questions from you so I don't just go off on so many different tangents. I love all things Airbnb. I'd love to work with people who either have a second home or a space and want to just see what it might be like to have a side hustle as a super host, or with Airbnb in general, just renting out your space or your home, even as a real estate investment. We're actually talking about going to get another one, and it's just the location thing. So I love everything to do with Airbnb. I don't even know what to say about it. I just love it.
So if you are someone who's interested in learning how to be a super host, if you already have one, and be constantly booked and get your 5-star
Yes.
reviews, and
Yes.
or is someone who'd like to learn more about how to start an Airbnb, whether it be that you buy an investment property, you have a room in your house, you have another house, you have an Airstream, you have whatever that you can have somebody in and be making money, either part-time income, full-time income. Helen is the queen of all the details that go into all of that, and it is time for her to put her stake in the ground, to put her little light on of open, and to be able to help coach and consult and create and oversee anyone who wants to learn how to be a superstar on Airbnb, whether you're starting from scratch or you're already in there and doing well.
Thank you for that. I feel excited right now. And when you just said the word details, I really light up because so many people are missing it. I travel a lot and I'm always in other people's Airbnbs. And maybe that's where some of it comes from too. So many people are missing the mark on the details about making someone feel taken care of. And just the details are so important and people are missing it. And I would like to help them be better. Yes.
So stay tuned. We're going to give you a way to get in touch with Helen. Again, if you can't find her, you can always find me and let me know that you are interested in learning more about learning from Helen in terms of Airbnb. But in the meantime, we're also going to be doing a summit very, very soon. So we're going to learn more about that. So let's get to where we're going next. And we're going to go back to Vesta so we can talk about her summit specifically, the one she's about to do. And we'll talk a little bit about the one that you did do, because I believe it's somewhat similar. And then, of course, where you can sign up for it and where you can learn more and register. Because, again, summits are free and it's free information. It's like a podcast, and that you can just listen to the information or watch the videos. So, Vesta, tell us about your next summit, when it is, what it is.
It's called The Power of Choosing You, again, because it is such an amazing title. And maybe I'll do it every year for the rest of my life. Who knows? Maybe this is the last one. Only time will tell. The last one was done in July of last year, and I don't want to say I lost. You have such a high when it's over. You're like, I can't wait to do it. It's kind of like running a race. Like you're like, as soon as it's over, you're like, yes, I can't wait. But the training is sometimes, a test. But I do love the summit. It's called The Power of Choosing You. I have amazing guests. 2 of them are on here. Helen and JJ are going to be on there. They're my only repeat guests from last year. And it really is the power of choosing you. It is about, we will talk about different ways that it is so important to choose you and live your best life, and it will empower you. I hope that it empowered people last year. I feel like it did. And it's really a testament on how I think we can empower ourselves, and the people that come on and talk about it will do the same. They will empower you and it's an amazing process, because some of the people that come on and you think they're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and then they come on and it turns into this completely different topic, and it makes it more fun, and it's just really amazing. And this year it's going to be on November 7th. And November 7th. And you sign up for it at powerofchoosingyousummit.com or powerofchoosingyou.com, whichever one's easier. And the details will come straight to you.
Okay, let's talk about, for anyone that has never done a summit. So you're listening to the show and you didn't do my summit and you didn't do Vesta summit. Like, what is a summit? So it's all day long. And you can pop in and watch when you can. There always will be an upgrade for a nominal amount of money in order for you to then own all of the material. And everyone that's going to be on the summit, so you'll see all the speakers and all what they're going to talk about on Vesta's landing page at thepowerofchoosingyou.com or thepowerofchoosingyousummit.com. And, like Helen and I spoke last year, and, we're especially Helen. I mean, she basically did a coaching session. She gave everybody like how to do your morning plan and how to do your evening before you go to bed ritual. And, it's all very user friendly. Like, you're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to be there to get, it's not theory. They're actionable things. There are stories that you can put yourself into the story and be motivated and really inspired that if they can do it, you can do it. But there's more than that. It's also going to be, how can people that are watching do this for themselves? And so you're going to want to be able to take notes. And if you have a hard time putting yourself first, then you better be at this summit. It's called The Power of Choosing You. So let's choose you by signing up, because it's free. You don't have to buy anything. You just have to show up and watch it. And you can listen to it if you're doing something else, because it'll, the video is fun when you want to see people's faces, but just like a podcast, you can just listen to it. You don't have to be there to watch. Okay. So thepowerofchoosingyou.com. What else, Vesta, about that?
If also, this is important, if you see a guest that you cannot wait, like that you really, really love, and you're like, I can't be there all day, you can be out, there will be a schedule, so you can pop on for whatever guest you're looking at. I mean, you're going to get the most out of it if you're there all day, but you can find the people that you might be hearing this, and when you read who's all going to be on there, you might be like, okay, I want to hear that person, what she has to say, or he, whatever. So that's also important to know, that you can pop in and out all day long if that's what you have to do. Your boss walks in the room, you guys shut it off for a minute, and then you get back on 5 minutes later, whatever, so.
All right, powerofchoosingyou.com.
Yeah.
If you didn't go last year, you missed. Well, let me tell you what the biggest thing you missed, besides all of the great information that was shared and motivation. You missed the transformation of Vesta from the morning until the evening, because even before she started, there was a moment the day before when the tech didn't work, when we did the prep of let's test out the link. Oh my God, link doesn't work. I quit. I'm done. Right. And again, she was kidding. She wasn't really serious, but she kind of was serious. It's like, yeah, right. Kind of. Can you just speak to that for a second, Vesta, of what happened from the morning until the evening for you? I mean, everyone that was there watched the neurological change happen throughout the day, but how would you describe it from being in the chair, being in the hot seat?
I am really, really good at talking to people, and I know this in a day-to-day world. I just, I can go anywhere, and there's something about, there's something about tech it's always a little scary and frustrating for me, and it's much better now, and now I get to the point where I just say I'll figure it out. Sometimes it takes me a long time, whatever. So that morning, the morning before, my crew of people popped on and it wouldn't work, and I said it makes me want to quit. And I mean, it makes me want to quit is a common thing that I say, but I never do. I might have to come back a week later or 3 weeks later because my eyes are too swelled up from crying because of a 10-second video. But I'm never going to quit. Generally, if it's something I really, really want to do and I see some future at the end, I'm probably not going to quit. I like to put probably in there just in case. So then the next morning, my same people from the day before, it's the mastermind that JJ runs, and and it's the tribe, and so I'm nervous, and I remember thinking, I'm talking and I have to talk for 15 minutes, and I'm a good talker, generally. And I remember thinking I don't want to script. I didn't want to script. So I just had like bullet points, and I looked down at my bullet points, And I like read them all, and it was 5 minutes in, and I got 10 more minutes. So then, there's questions and there's people talking, and then it just becomes a process. And then when the people that my interviewees come on, it's so I became relaxed because I'm like, oh, I'm just having conversations with these people. And I mean, at the end, I do like ask every single person, what do you do every day to choose yourself? But other than that, it's just a casual conversation. Nothing was script. And I loved it. And as the day went on, I just got more and more comfortable. And what really happens is the comments, even if there's just 10 people there live at a moment, there's people commenting, there's people listening, and people caring about what I'm saying. And I don't do this work for validation, but man, it feels good when you have it.
Yeah. And we have a superstar commenter here of Helen
We
Raptopoulos, who
do.
is the biggest cheerleader for anybody. You should have a second name of cheerleader, because she is the number one cheerleader, no matter where she is, to make sure you are supported and loved, because she also holds webinars. This will be her first summit, but she does lots of webinars. She's used to that platform. And it's no different, Helen, just do it all day long. That's all. You being in front of the camera. But yeah, it is important, because there's interaction, you're not just talking to nobody, and that they're actually listening, and that you're having this back and forth, and that they like what you're talking about, and they're interested in the material, and that's what makes it alive. It's an alive process. A summit is live. Now, not always. Sometimes summits are pre-recorded and you can stick a couple in there, but generally when they're live, it's so exciting to have the people there. I mean, I had 3 or 4 pre-recorded ones for mine, but I was still there. I mean, I went to the bathroom and had something to eat, but I was still there in the chat, listening to, watching the chat and participating, even though I wasn't on camera. So yeah, it's the adrenaline rush of having, it's like being on stage, for anyone that's ever been on stage or sung or acted or danced or cheerleaded or sang in a choir or whatever, and people receive you and you have the energy goes back and forth. It's awesome. And that's actually why a lot of people do that. But so it can be a little addicting, but it is a great feeling. So thank you, Helen. And thank you, Vesta, for being brave you led last year's tribe in the, I'm going to do a hard thing. I'm going to do a really hard thing that I've never done. So you were a big inspiration for a lot of people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wendy, let's talk about your podcast. And I know you just said it's going to be sometime in October. And a little bit about, right now, we'll mention Wendy's podcast the minute that it becomes out there in the world. And maybe if you have me on, I'll do what I did for Vesta. We'll just repurpose it, put it on my show, and then everyone will know when it's on, and they can just go to that, right? That's just the easiest way to promote it, because then we both get an episode out of it, and everyone knows. But in the meantime, if someone wants to get on your list, they want to know what you're doing, they want to maybe be a part of the next Paths to Inner Peace Summit, or they want to find out more about what you're doing, what do you think would be a good way for them to get in touch? Or like, I think you have a hypnosis download, right? Like that. So if someone's looking for Paths to Inner Peace right now before the podcast comes out,
they can reach me at Wendy Patterson, wendypattersonwellness.com. I just have a landing page with everything, with a 5-minute free meditation. I have a 25-minute stress-free hypnosis, along with a happiness quiz. And I believe I'm going to have something out as of near October as well. It's going to be out on that page as well. And then sooner or later, I'm going to have I'm going to have my podcast that's going to be linked there, that people will be able to find out, what's coming, what's been released, and what's upcoming.
just talk a little bit about what you want to do, like the motivation, the mission, if you will, the mission statement. I hate mission statements, but I mean, I understand why they're important. Personal mission statement, right? Because your mission statement changes as it changes as you grow, and as you go, whoa, wait a minute, this is really important. I'm going to lean into this, right? Generally speaking, what do you think a mission statement would be of why you're doing Paths to Inner Peace, and the message that you have for people that you really want them to know and learn and embody?
Well, when I think about my journey, I believe I've grown through other people's stories, having conversations, and just being curious and asking more questions about myself and about where I want to go and what I want to do. However, through having conversations and hearing stories is where I believe that's where we all hear, that's where things are planted. And whether or not you cultivate it or not is a choice. However, I just want to inspire people through the stories and through the interviews to, be able to help them along their journey to find inner peace.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Miss Helen. So let's talk about your summit.
Yes, let's talk about my summit. Very excited because it is really coming up soon. So we'll use excited because it's the same word as nervous, only more butterflies, I think, when you're nervous and excited. I don't know. My summit is called, what is it called? It is the Lifestyle Makeover Summit. I just needed a moment. The Lifestyle Makeover Summit. It doesn't have the word "the" in it. I keep saying that. LifestyleMakeoverSummit.com, and you can get all the details there. It's going to be October 15th, which is a Tuesday. It will be all day. And just like Vesta said, it's just an incredible experience because there's so many different speakers. And I like to think of it, and it reminds me a lot, especially when I'm attending, like you're watching a really awesome talk show, and like it's Oprah, or it's just somebody having really great intellectually stimulating conversations with actionable ideas and tips and things you wouldn't thought about in your own life, or maybe you have but haven't acted on it. So just watching that interaction is so valuable between who you're talking to and what you're talking about. So I have some great experts. We're going to talk about all different things in the genre of lifestyle improvement and makeovers and reinventions and remodels. And I love that topic because it doesn't pigeonhole into just one idea. So we can do a little bit with mindset, a little bit with healthy habits, a little bit with relationships, finances. Where in your life would you like a turnaround? And then that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So lifestylemakeoversummit.com.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's a lot of words, I know, but it was kind of cool to get it. So it's all one thing.
Lifestylemakeoversummit.com. All these links will be in the show notes. But again, they all have been encouraged to create things you can remember.
Yeah.
WendyPattersonWellness.com, powerofchoosingyou.com, and powerofchoosingyousummit.com, lifestylemakeoverdesign.com. Yes? All right.
Lifestyle Makeover Summit.
Sorry. Lifestylemakeoversummit.com. Okay. I'll say it one more time. Lifestylemakeoversummit.com. And that'll be in the show notes. Okay. And I love that you're going to do a multi sort of level faceted, approach so that it can be, again, body, mind, spirit, relationship, money, blah, 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 all the things. So I love that. Now I want to open it up and just see anything else that you guys feel called to share, whether it be to the audience or to each other or to me, or anything, a question you might have for each other that you think would be valuable to share. Anybody has something? I know I just threw that on the spot, but Vesta, go ahead, open up your mic.
I'll share with Helen because it's her first one, but Helen's good at tech, I think. I could be wrong, but I think there's power in silence sometimes, letting the guests, come up with their words. Because when I went into it, a big part of me wanted to fill all the silence or fill all the, like there was I had a lot of nervous energy. So when it's just a conversation, there doesn't have to be filled every single second. You don't have to, you don't have to force anything. And I think that was really hard to learn. Well, I learned that day, but it wasn't something I was doing at the beginning. I was forcing questions. And then when I started my podcast, I did the same thing because I try to keep my podcast an hour with an interview and 30 minutes if it's a solo podcast. But there was a couple guests, like one girl, she talked so fast. She has a great message, but I kept asking questions, and then I tried to force it. And then I was like, 45 minutes is fine. Nobody cares. There's no such thing as perfect. But, so I think forcing things sometimes with nervous energy, if that's one thing I learned, that's what I learned.
I feel like I know why you're talking to me. So message heard.
I feel like I'm also talking to me.
Well, and Wendy, because it's the same thing for a podcast, like you just said, and, and hopefully y'all have learned this from me. like whatever nobody's going to say, hey, how come you didn't do it 15 minutes more on the podcast last week? Like, really? Like, so
Right.
you do the show that you want to do, Wendy.
Also want to address the word failure. There is no such thing. It's either you do it or you don't, but there is no failure because you learn something from it. So instead of looking at it as a failure, it's like, okay, just back it up a bit and sit back and say, well, what did I learn? What can I do differently? Right? Because nobody sees it as failure but ourselves. Right? Nobody does but ourselves because we're criticizing ourselves. So I look at it differently and I kind of go, okay, what can I learn? And what am I learning from me not stepping forward? It's just fear. It's just step over the threshold and it's just like jumping. It's just stepping over that threshold of the
Bungee
where you
jumping.
step off from bungee jumping.
Yeah.
Just step over it and just do it. So I'm going to action my things this week.
Well, and whether you're telling that to anyone that's here, people who are listening or watching this need to hear that. Because fear is, and I guess this was a quote that I made a long time ago. I didn't even know. One of my clients, she used to text me when she'd hear me like say something that was like a mic drop moment. And once she texted me, fear is not an endpoint. And I was like, huh? She goes, you said that in this podcast. I said, I did. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. That's a JJ quote. Fear is not an endpoint. Right. So and the idea of failure, I think I put on Instagram on a reel today, a little clip from the podcast, the 10-year anniversary podcast that Doug and I talked about, that everything's a test. Everything is a test. And it's not a judgment. It works or doesn't work. It's the right time. It's not the right time. It's the right people. It's not the right people. But you don't have to. If you want to be happy and successful, you would be best to learn how to follow your inner guidance system. When you have an intuition and something coming through that wants to be expressed, to follow it. And then when you do, but what stops us from doing it or whatever, making a choice about our business or what direction we're going to go, we judge and we go, oh, but if it doesn't look perfect, what's going to happen? And if I fail, then we have that inner conversation. But until we try it, we don't know. We just don't know. And so I love that for everyone who's listening, because I think that everyone here would attribute, I don't know, maybe, am I wrong? Do you guys, Vesta, Helen, do you consider failure? Is that something that scares you if you're going to fail?
It used to be the thing that might stop me from taking action. But then you learn that if you want to be the person that you see yourself becoming, there's no other way. That's the only bridge to get there, is to cross through that fear. I love that you just called that a test. I think that's a really important word, because I like to think of it even as more of a filter. And like the universe is filtering out who's serious about this thing they say they want. And you need to step up and pass that test, or then you can live right where you are, be comfortable, maybe call it a mediocre life. It's good enough. But if you want to have everything that you're daydreaming about, then you need to pass that test. And the only way to do it is to step through the fear, no matter how much you're freaking out, because that's the only way to get there.
I just heard a thing that somebody said today, there's no wrong turns, which, because then everything can be a learning experience and all that stuff. And that's really nice to say out loud.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I definitely failure, imperfection, which I am learning. Obviously we all know there's no such thing as perfection. And we all also know, this is me, it's mostly talking to me, that if it's going to be perfect, you're never going to do it. If you're waiting for it to be perfect, you're never going to do it. And that's the same thing essentially as failure. And for somebody who has a lot of negative dialogue going through my brain, pretty much, well, not now. I'm healing myself and becoming the much better version of who I really want to be. But a lot of that is through changing my inner dialogue. And it's easier to change your inner dialogue when you do hard things. It's easier. It's like, I know I'm brave. I can get on anywhere and put a fucking video up. That was so hard. Like when I tell you I bawled, eyeballs red, walking around trying to appreciate life, bawling through this park in Lexington, Kentucky, and now I'm like, oh, I can do anything. I can do anything.
I made a video and now I
10
can do anything.
freaking seconds. I mean, I should put both of them up. You should put, the other one's not. Yeah, you should put both of them up and just
Side by
the
side comparison.
difference between the two. Because I'm like, I mean, I feel like I'm even just being on the mic. It's easier. It's just easier. The more you do hard things, and that the more you do it, the less you think about failure. The less you think about. It's more about, okay, if I don't do this, where is it going to take me? If I do this, where is it going to take me? And if I want to go up, I gotta do things. I gotta do things. So
So you just reminded me, I have to do that. It's important to do that hard thing. It's important to step out that comfort zone. I've been too comfortable lately. So this whole thing is like, thank you. I appreciate that share.
The really wonderful pleasure that I have, and I will spend some time and probably money doing this. I'm not going to commit to doing it on a timeline. But like, let's say Patrick, for instance, now Vesta and Wendy saw Patrick at the last event, right? But Patrick then versus Patrick now. Like, so now I'll have him on camera. I mean, I have him, but now I'll get him on camera again at this next event, right? Like to do a side by side of the before and the after, right? And even for you guys, I bet you I could do, right, a before and after from the first event to this, or Wendy's first event, which was, no, did you do a boot camp? You did the Manifestation Boot Camp 2021. So from there until now, right? And just for you guys to see, I mean, I love going back and watching old testimonials and old things where people are old mastermind, recordings, because you see yourself differently. You go, oh my God, like, look where I was and look where I am now. And that, for those of you that are out there and you're trying to make changes in your life and you don't have measurable ways to see or to other people to bounce off of, and you maybe just in therapy or maybe just reading books or listening to podcasts, and you think you're changing because you feel differently, but are you showing up differently? And that's really the question. And does anyone notice? And not that everyone else's opinion, it doesn't necessarily matter, especially if they're in a lower frequency than you. However, sometimes no matter what, when you vibrate differently, even if they're not at the similar frequency, they can see that you're different. And that's sort of always the name of the game for me, is how do we keep growing and into being the calmer, more peaceful, passionate, energetic, confident, happy person that we know we are, and that we are most of the time. And how can we be resilient and accepting and less resistance and lighter? I mean, we're in a Pisces full moon right now. Like, how can we be lighter in life? Doesn't mean you don't do hard things. It doesn't mean you don't put yourself out there. There's the balance, right? Of every time you do something harder, the rest is like deeper. Yes. Like, it's almost like you worry. Here's scenario number one. I want to do something else, but I'm not doing it. So what happens? Struggle, worry, go back and forth with yourself, fighting yourself about doing the thing, but not doing the thing. And then there's no peace in that. Then you do the hard thing and it's really hard. And then you come down like, oh, like you've just expanded the bubble. And all of a sudden now, yes, I was so nervous and the brain changed. So now, like, you have a deeper level of peace and ease, because you're like, whoa, I just expanded this whole comfort zone. I have more space. I know I can do harder things. I feel confident. I feel secure in myself. So it's the difference between the people that keep struggling with the back and forth and should I, shouldn't I? I'm not going to do it. I'm not gonna, like, you just live there, and there's never peace in there, because there's no up and there's no down. There's no coming back into a more expansive place. Sorry, I just made all that up because I was just thinking about that energetically. And I think it's the truth, because how many people just live in the circling of the same story, of the repeat, of the repeat, of the repeat. So all of the things that everyone here is offering you, from the power of choosing you, so you can get out of your own way and stop putting other people in front of you, and lifestyle makeover summit, so that you can look at where in your life you need to make some changes. And maybe, yeah, it's not going to be all the things all the time, but it's going to be something. And I promise you're going to find something on both of these summits that are going to move you forward in a direction that maybe you didn't even know you need to go. But it's going to be a life-changing lesson, but you got to show up and you got to sign up. And then, of course, the Past Inner Peace podcast is going to help you bring it back to, how do we get back to that place where we're coming from, a centered, grounded, intuitive, aligned place to make these decisions, these listening to our heart, listening to our inner guidance. You can't hear your inner guidance if all you hear is chatter. We have to slow down long enough to listen to what our inner guidance is telling us to do. So these are going to be very valuable tools for all of you. And guess what? They're all free. So you want to go and get them all. Yes? Any last words, ladies?
Yes. Yes, I want to go get those things.
Okay. We got a big old hell yeah. Gonna get all this, gonna be a part of all of this movement and expansion and also just being the fly on the wall. If you're listening to this podcast and you've been here for a while, I think the recurring theme I feel very confident about is when I ask people, have you seen me grow? And most people, every person in my room always says yes. And that's not a like, JJ is growing. No, it's the fact that we're all growing. Is that if you're still with me, we're all growing. That's the point. If I'm growing and you're still with me, we're all growing. But to be able to go back and see the change, to see the growth is like, we're all on this journey together. This is a community where whether you've stepped forward into the community in person yet or not, or on a Zoom call or in a group is yet to be seen, but you're still, if you're listening, a part of this community. So please support these community members who have believed in themselves enough, who have been dedicated to wanting your lives to be better and to change you for free and be a part of all this wonderful magic that they're putting out into the world. All right. Make sure to check the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you at the Power of Choosing You Summit, of the Lifestyle Makeover Summit, and seeing you on Paths to Inner Peace podcast.